LinkedIn is one of my favorite social networks. I'm active on a few, but I get a lot of joy out of using LinkedIn, and that's probably something you don't think about when you think about this social network. But I've been using it for a few years. I've used it for networking, I've used it for my resume, I've used it to show off my accomplishments and keep in touch with people. And there's some ways that you can use LinkedIn that you may not have thought of that will be helpful for your business, that will be helpful for yourself and your department and your campaigns. And so I want to talk about those things in this guide to getting started on LinkedIn. As you heard, my name's Wade Kwan. I'm a communication consultant in Birmingham. I also put on an annual conference called Y'all Connect, which is a blogging and social media conference. I'll tell you a little bit more about it. I'm on Twitter at WadeOnTweets. You're welcome to share any of this presentation on social media, any channel you choose. And if you have questions, don't save them for the end. Just raise your hand. I'll be happy to take questions at any point. At the end, I've got a couple of door prizes to hand out, and also if you leave me your business card, I'll email you some more information about LinkedIn that I couldn't fit into this presentation. But we got a lot to talk about because y'all were kind enough to fill out a survey earlier this year. There are a lot of things to talk about on LinkedIn, but you told me the 4 things that were the most important to you. And so that's a good starting point in terms of figuring out what are you going to do with this social network? How do you make the most of it? It's free, so why not take advantage of it? You've probably seen that in whatever social networks you frequent, there's some social power behind them. You or your friends or your colleagues might use Facebook or Twitter to crowdsource information. You might be looking for a plumber or recommendations on a movie. You may use it for fundraising. Certainly crowdfunding is very popular, and so your cause, your nonprofit organization, your church, you may use it to fund certain things, and by using the power of social networking, be able to raise that money more quickly and without spending a lot on a campaign. So let's use that social power for LinkedIn. Let's use it for your profile. Let's use it for your network. Let's use it for your company and what you are trying to accomplish this year. There is a lot of social power in LinkedIn, but it's untapped because for a lot of us, and myself included at some point, you set up your profile and then you never log back in again, and you get a lot of annoying email notifications from LinkedIn, and you just put them straight in the trash or you ignore them. And there's a better way. So let's talk about some of those things that you can be doing. The first 2 areas that you told me about were profile. And these 2 sections of your profile, they're crucial to making sure that you stand out. We were talking about it earlier before I got started in terms of putting your best foot forward and making sure that your profile shines. Because there are millions of people on LinkedIn, and it's easy to blend in. I don't want you to blend in. So we're going to talk about those 2 sections first. Sharing is something that probably comes naturally if you've been on other social networks. You share things that are funny or interesting or things that make you mad or things that you think people should know about. But the question comes up, what do you share on LinkedIn? What's appropriate? What gets results? Why share? So we're going to go a little deeper into that. And for those of you who are in sales, lead generation can be important. Finding potential new clients, people who are interested in your products and services. So we're going to spend some time on lead generation. Now, some of you may think, well, that's not for me because I'm not in sales. I read a book last year, To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink, and his philosophy is, in 2016, we're all in sales now. We're selling ourselves, we're selling our departments, we're selling internally to colleagues, we're selling externally, but at every moment we are our own personal brand, we are selling things, we are committed to our causes and our families and our neighborhoods, and So cultivating those sales skills can be important in terms of moving ahead, but it doesn't necessarily mean in-your-face cold calls and the old sales technique. It may mean growing your network in a smart way, drawing people towards you, and trying to help them solve their problems. So LinkedIn can be a great way to build that network. So the first thing that people see on your LinkedIn page is your summary. I mean, it's at the top of the page. I look at a lot of profiles on a regular basis. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn every day, and usually I'm doing research. I'm not doing anything beyond that other than, you know, I'm looking for someone, or I'm trying to find out something about a company, or I'm just trying to get some more information. And sometimes it's a good resource, and sometimes it's not. And where it breaks down is, I'll go and look at people's profiles, and their summary will be blank, which means I got to start drilling down to find out something about them. Or it's just poorly written, or it doesn't tell me anything about that person. That's your starting point, because if your summary is really good, people will scroll down and look at the rest of your profile. If it's not good, they may just move on quickly. But it doesn't have to be that way. So, you know, I mentioned I've been on LinkedIn for a few years, and so my summary, it's very straightforward. I mean, it's not too long, it's not too short, but the very first sentence, I help businesses communicate more effectively online and offline. If you read nothing else on that summary, you know what I do. If you need help with your communication, that's great. You might continue reading downward. If you don't need help with communication, that's fine. You just keep flipping to the next profile, because that's not what you're looking for right now. But I also put in my contact information. Contact me at wade@wadequan.com. Because I don't want you to go to the trouble to find me out of millions of people and then not know how to reach me. I mean, sure, you can message me through LinkedIn, but I'm going to make it as easy as possible. So I'm not going to bury my email address somewhere down there, or not at all. I'm going to put it right there at the top. So if you're having a communication emergency, a 911 situation, you can email me right at that moment. The other thing is, like on that bottom half, you can see that there are bullet points. Those bullet points are my specialties. I listed things that I'm good at that you might need me for. So communication, leadership, strategic planning, social media, including blogging, networking, public speaking, writing, and so on. So even if you just take 30 seconds to read through the summary, you know what I do, you know how I can help you. If you need that help, you know how to reach me. If you look at nothing else in my profile, you've got the gist of it. Your profile has to tell the story of who you are, it needs to do it concisely, and you need to make it as interesting as possible. So what do you do to make sure that your summary is perfect? For starters, you're going to write it, and you might rewrite it several times. You might edit it. You might turn it over to someone in your department or a spouse or a significant other and have them read over it. But you're going to take a lot of time and put the care and love into making sure that your summary is as good as possible. I've been a writer for most of my career, and so I understand that writing does not necessarily come easy to everyone. So if you do not consider yourself a writer, hire someone to write it for you, your summary and the rest of your profile, because you can hire freelancers to write anything. And why not have a professional take care of it rather than struggle through it needlessly? Because there are plenty of great freelance writers available at fair rates, and they'll take care of it. You know, I don't do the wiring in my house. I don't work on my car engine. I don't have those skills, and I'd rather have someone who knows what they're doing take care of it. So if you don't feel comfortable with the writing part of it, find someone who can do it for you. But make sure that the summary reads as good as it can, and that is, it shows off who you are, why you're special, and draws in the right audience. The product you are selling is yourself. And that can be a challenge, because we're in the South, we're supposed to be humble, no bragging. And I give you permission to brag on your LinkedIn profile and on your resume. You are selling yourself. You're selling yourself to a potential future employer. You're selling yourself to potential clients and customers. You're selling yourself to people within your organization. Make sure that you are shining and that you are showing off your accomplishments, your awards, your certifications, the milestones that your colleagues may not have achieved at this point. Like I said, it's a challenge because we tend to think of ourselves as maybe not special, and you really have to go beyond that and look at yourself as you are looking for a potential employee, a potential colleague. Because in my career, I've had to hire people, so I've had to look at a lot of cover letters and a lot of resumes. And most of them you forget instantly. You don't want to be in that pile of resumes and LinkedIn profiles. So this is an opportunity to put yourself out there. Not an easy step, but a critical one. You saw in my summary that I put my specialties up top and I bullet pointed them. I'm basically putting as many keywords as possible into my summary. That summary is searchable throughout LinkedIn. So when someone searches writing or public relations or social media, that gives me a distinct advantage than just leaving it buried in the experience section or further down the page. So when you are writing your summary, make sure that you've got your keywords in there as to what you do, what your skills are, what your training is, what your certification is, anything that people might search on. We talked briefly before the talk about SEO, and when you think about SEO, you want to think about how people search, how they ask questions in Google. So you want to think about how people search in LinkedIn, and if they're looking for a specialist or a professional, you want your name to be high up in that search. So make sure that the keywords that represent what you do are in your summary. So the profile summary, you're going to make sure that it's well written. You're going to make sure that it's got lots of keywords. You're going to make sure that you sell the product that you know best, which is yourself. The other part of the profile that you told me was important to you was the jobs and experience section. And anyone who's put together a resume knows what that's about. You list where you work now. You list all the other companies that you've worked for in reverse chronological order, years, job titles, duties, and so on. There's not much to it. But there are certain things that you can do to make sure that as people scroll down your profile, they're getting the best information possible. So we're going to take a much closer look at the jobs and experience section. The most important thing that I tell anyone about their resume or their LinkedIn profile, if you take nothing else away today, take away this. I would rather have you put your results from each job that you've had than your job duties and requirements. Results are far more important than duties. You tell me about what you do right now in terms of what job duties there are, and the problem is anyone can perform those duties. And the person who was there before you in that job and the person that's there after you will have the same duties. Plus, those duties probably evolve over time. The moment you were hired, the duties that were listed are probably not necessarily the same ones you perform now 5 months after you were hired or 5 years after you were hired. Results, on the other hand, are specific to you. You're the one who created them. You're the one who brought about that change. And I told you that as a manager, I've had to go through the hiring process several times. And I can't tell you how many times that I'd look through profiles and resumes and just see that, well, they wrote stories on the City Hall beat, and they wrote stories on the cops beat, and they edited you know, the weekend section, and so on. Big deal. I come from newspapers. Trained monkey can do most of that stuff. But if they told me that they won an award for their reporting, or that they made deadline every single time, or the results that came after an investigative story, that's important. That makes a difference. The results that you want to be bragging about in your experience section, how did you help increase revenue for your company? How did you help your company save money? How did you help them save time? How did you improve customer satisfaction? How did you boost morale within your department? These are all things that you did, so that if someone is looking to hire you, they see that you care enough to create results for your company. You're not just there taking up space. And there ain't no one in this room who doesn't sit next to someone at their office who's just taking up space. But you don't want to be seen as that person. You want to be seen as someone who is actively participating in making life better for colleagues, for customers, for vendors. So this is your opportunity to specify what have you accomplished on the job. Talk about concrete terms. In my job profile, in working in a Reader's Choice Bowl, I increased participation year to year 30%. That's a huge jump in participation, which leads to more subscriptions, more inquiries, more advertising revenue, and so on. But that gives a talking point so that if someone wants to know more, I can explain how I did it. I can explain how I can do it for them. Potential customers may see your profile and figure out they want to do business with someone who knows what they're doing, who is an advocate for the customer, who is active in product development and services. So whatever audience that you are trying to attract, show them what you've done. Job titles are a funny thing. The job title that is on your business card or on your name plaque, that's the job title we slap onto LinkedIn. But that's not always the best strategy. You always want to be 100% accurate on your resume and LinkedIn. Every single line should be true and verifiable. You should be able to back it up, whatever you put on there. But job titles, I think there's an area where we can do better, and here's how. Let me give an example. So at the magazine I worked at for a couple of years, I was the associate features editor. Does anyone in here work in publishing, magazines, newspapers, books? Can you tell me what an associate features editor does?
I have no idea.
I'm sure there were people at my magazine that couldn't tell me what an associate features editor does. Something to do with features and editing at some level. But even magazine to magazine, that title may mean different things and require different skill sets and perform different duties. That job title is not on my LinkedIn profile because it doesn't explain what I did and what I want to do next. The job title that's in that section is editor, writer, and project manager. Clear, plain English. I like to edit, I like to write, I like to run projects. If it comes time to discuss it further, my official title was Associate Features Editor, but in the time that I was at the magazine, I edited stories, I traveled for the company, I wrote stories for multiple departments, including online features, I integrated print and web features, I ran special projects, including the Reader's Poll, launching of new blogs, and the list goes on. Editor, writer, project manager. The moment someone sees that, whether you work in publishing or not, you know exactly what I did. You know what I also did at that job? I created, maintained, and developed databases. I'm good at it, and I never want to do it again. It's not in my title, and it's not in my skill set, and it's not in my accomplishments. I'll do it if I have to, but the emphasis is on editing, writing, communications, projects, deadlines, and so on. So the job title is also a reflection of what you want to do next. If that job title were comprehensive, database manager or developer would be on there. But I don't want to develop databases. I happen to be able to do that, but I don't want it on my resume. I can also wash dishes. I don't want to do that either. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just not what I want to do next. Some of you are guilty of this. I won't ask you to raise your hands, but you've set up your profile on LinkedIn and then you've never gone back and looked at it again. And that's our tendency with LinkedIn and with resumes. I would recommend twice a year go back and update it, because even if you're in the same job, you may have won some awards, you may have taken on a new volunteer group, you may have had different achievements. Something in your profile needs to be updated. And so rather than worry about it week to week or month to month, twice a year is fine. If you did it this week, you could do it at the beginning and the end of daylight savings time. You could do it on the equinoxes. Spring equinox is this weekend and the fall equinox is in September. But just mark on your calendar to update it, and then 6 months down the road, mark your calendar to update it again. It's so frustrating as someone who uses LinkedIn when I go and look through profiles and the information is clearly not up to date. Or when I reach out to them, they're no longer at their company, or they're no longer in that department, or they're no longer in that city. Or they've moved on from whatever position or volunteer assignment that was on there. But you don't want your first impression by a customer or an employer or an associate to be that you can't be bothered with details, that you can't keep things accurate on your own profile. Because again, it's sending out a mixed message. You want it to be as sharp and as professional as possible, and so keeping it up to date every 6 months is an easy way to do that. So think about the job titles, think about sharing your results on your profile, and making sure that everything's up to date. Questions so far? Okay. So after you put together your profile, I want you to make sure that you get in the habit of using LinkedIn on a regular basis. It can be from your computer, it can be from your phone or your tablet. LinkedIn has an app for probably the phone that you have or the tablet that you have, and it's free, and it just makes it easier to use it on the go. We're always going to be stuck in line somewhere or waiting somewhere, and 3 minutes is all it takes to go in and just check out what's happening on LinkedIn. One way to use it is to share things on there. Certainly you share things in other social networks, but what do you share on LinkedIn? I mean, what matters to people? Let me talk about 3 different areas that are appropriate, and each of you can figure out for yourself what you want to share and what you want to keep off LinkedIn. First area is, if it's interesting, it's probably worth sharing on LinkedIn. If you work in insurance and you want to network with potential customers and your specialty is auto insurance, then there may be interesting trends going on in terms of car maintenance or competitive rates, or if their son or daughter is about to turn driving age, what are things to look for when shopping for a policy for a new teen driver, and so on. And so those are things that are of interest to your target audience. Or if you are sharing for things that are interesting to your peers who also work in insurance, you might talk about bigger trends in terms of consolidation in the insurance industry, or the economic forecast, or what divisions are likely to grow and what divisions aren't, or if online shopping has taken over enough so that it means consolidation of in-person offices. Interesting is a broad spectrum, but if it's interesting, it's probably worth sharing. Now, overlapping interesting is informative. If it's informative, you should probably share it on LinkedIn. I'll give you an example of something that's informative but not interesting. So you know, I gotta renew my auto insurance policy every 6 months. And maybe every couple of years, I might shop around and see if there's a better rate out there. So I'll read through the policy, the deduction, what's covered, you know, for my vehicle, for my household size. It's not interesting at all. But it's important because I need to know all those details if I'm going to shop carefully for my next policy. Same with homeowners insurance, same with health insurance. But typically, if it's informative, it will tend to overlap interesting as well. But again, you're thinking about your target audience on LinkedIn. Potential customers, potential clients, potential people that you're going to hire, potential people that are going to hire you. And so if you share things that are interesting or informative, you can attract the right audience. Third category is always funny. And there is a debate as to whether or not you share funny things on LinkedIn. You know, I think of it as a professional network, so I tend not to share funny stuff. Now, of course, I'm naturally hilarious, so some of that stuff sneaks through. But for the most part, most of the stuff that I share on LinkedIn is related to communications, social media, blogging, writing, leadership, entrepreneurship. I leave most of the other stuff to like Facebook or Twitter or whatever. I've seen more people sharing funny stuff on LinkedIn, and it's not my favorite. I'm not going to unfriend them, but I'm probably going to skim over their posts rather than look at things that are of interest to me. And people do share in my network things that I care about or I'm interested in or are very informative. So that's probably the most divisive area in terms of what you might share on LinkedIn. But interesting, informative, funny. If it ticks one of those boxes, you should probably share it. If it ticks 2 or 3 of the boxes, you should definitely share it. But this is an opportunity for people to see what you know, interact with you, share what you put out there, leave a comment, and get a better understanding of what you do. Now, as a consultant, that's a question that comes up very often, and I'm happy to answer it over and over again. But by talking about communications issues on a regular basis, my network understands some of the issues that I'm talking about, and I'm trying to make sure that they're better informed consumers. Because even if they never hire me, I don't want them to make bad decisions about their website or about SEO or about social media, because then they get more frustrated and they fall further behind. So if I can share things that will make their job easier or make it their marketing campaign more successful, that's what I'm going to put out there. So share on a regular basis, make sure that it ticks one of those 3 boxes, and interact with people based on what they share or how they interact with what you post. There's an opportunity there in that professional network to stand out, because if 80% of the people have profiles and then never log back in and update their profiles, by making sure that your profile is up to date, you're already in the top 20%. And if you share things on a regular basis, even 1 or 2 times a week, you're already in the top 10%, because now you're active. I schedule all my stuff in advance on LinkedIn, so the stuff that's going out there, it's going out right now and it's automated. Some of it is new content, some of it's legacy content from my sites, some of it's stuff that I found online or through other people, but it's always out there in a constant stream, because I don't know when you're going to log into LinkedIn. You're not going to see everything I post. Therefore, if I have something out there, if it only takes me 10 minutes to schedule for the next week, I'll invest that 10 minutes, because it's easy for me to check LinkedIn at any point. And if someone has a question or responds to one of the things I share, it's easy to go in, to log in and respond to it. The other thing that you told me was important was generating leads, finding potential prospects within LinkedIn. Because I said that your sales approach isn't going to be in your face and the old style of selling, it's important that when we talk about leads and lead generation, really what we're talking about is growing your network properly. Some people on LinkedIn, they will invite anyone to connect with them, and any invitation that comes their way, they'll accept. For me, I prefer that I've met you at some point, or I've interacted with you on the phone or by email or something. Like, I got to know who you are, and you got to know who I am. So mine is more deliberate in terms of who's in my network. But that's good, because that means when someone comes to ask me about someone else in my network, I can tell them, oh, well, you know, they've got 10 years experience, I met them at this conference, they're really good at X, Y, and Z, and I'll be happy to connect you right now, either by email or by LinkedIn or by phone or however. So I want to know everyone in my network. But I also want to be able to help them at a moment's notice. So as you're thinking about potential leads, we want them to be warm leads. We want them to be people that you've associated with. So let's talk about some specific ways to grow that network that makes sense for you, but that will pay off in the short term and in the long term. Most obvious thing to do is connect with people you work with, either people at your current company or people at your former company, and that may include people that you went to college with and high school with. Now, I went to college with 17,000 people. I didn't meet all of them, and I don't want to connect with 17,000 people. But I do want to connect with the people that I went to class with, and that I was in the newspaper with, and so on. So as you reach out to people, you don't have to reach out to everyone in your company, but you definitely want to reach out to people that you've worked with, who you have a good opinion of, and they have a good opinion of you. Some of them you invite are already on LinkedIn, so it's easy for them to connect. Some of them aren't on LinkedIn, and they may or may not respond or create a profile. But you can invite anyone who you have their email address, or if you know they're on LinkedIn, you can reach them that way. But that's the first easiest way to grow your network, is people you've worked with, people who know you from a professional setting. In terms of finding those leads, the other easy way to connect is with acquaintances. So your kids go to school and you know the other parents and you're on PTA with them, those are people you can connect with. People you go to church with, people that are in the same volunteer group with you. If you serve on a board, people on that board, people in your book club, people from your neighborhood. There are opportunities there where you know people and you will never share a cubicle with them. You will never work in an office with them, but you know them better than some of your office mates. So there is an opportunity to, again, expand your network with people you know that you hadn't considered before. And again, some of them will already be on LinkedIn, so it'll be a piece of cake. Others, they may join, or they may just ignore your request. So you're going to start out with a wide circle of folks that you already know, people at your job, and people in your life. Those of you who use Facebook on a regular basis are probably familiar with groups. If you're on Facebook, you're probably a member of a group, or you may run a group. But like Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups are easy, they're free, they're flexible, and they're around a lot of different topics. You want to go find LinkedIn groups that match up with what you do or who you're trying to reach. So if you're in advertising and you work for an agency, you can find lots of groups that are focused on advertising. And if you focus on a specific kind of advertising, you probably can find groups there too, simply by searching at the top of LinkedIn. When you see that list of groups, some of them are open, so you can go and look through what they posted lately. You can see who's a member. Some of them are closed, which means you have to just click to request to join, and then some moderator will either say yes or no. And then once you're a member of the group, you can sit back and read what's going on in the group, who's actively participating, what they're talking about, what their problems are. And when you're ready, jump in with suggestions or additional questions or ways that you can help other people in the group. So now we're moving into an area where you don't know, you might know a colleague or two in the group, or you may not know anyone in the group. But this is your chance to show yourself as someone who's helpful, who has lots of good information, who's a good resource, who's ready to answer questions. Because most of the group doesn't participate. They forget to check in, or they're just watching from the sidelines. But participating in the group is easy. I mean, if you know how to post on Facebook and respond to comments and yell at other people, then you can certainly do it on LinkedIn. But there are groups based on industry, there are groups around specific companies, there are groups around geography, so Jackson and Mississippi. There's all kinds of groups, and if the group doesn't exist, you can create one. You could create one just for people in your department. You could create one for people at your company. You could create an exclusive one for your top customers. There are lots of different ways that you can meet people on LinkedIn, and you can do it through the existing groups, or you can make up your own group. And you can make sure that the group notifies you either when you log into LinkedIn, or you can have it send you email notifications when someone updates the group. But you are not having to do all the work, because if you have a vibrant, active group, and I mean, I'm standing in front of a very active, vibrant group. It brings in the right people. It gives you a chance to shine in what you know best and how you help your customers and your clients and your colleagues every single day. But all you have to do is just type it in and share it, or copy and paste a link. It's no harder than that, and it only takes less than a minute. So by connecting with your colleagues, by connecting with your acquaintances, by joining these groups, and by making sure that you're growing your network properly, that's the starting point in terms of building leads. That's the starting point in not only recognizing people who need help, and that's the kind of help that your company offers, but also people coming to you to ask you for that help. If you have questions, just email me, wade@wadequan.com. You can go to my website, yoelconnect.com. You can reach me on Twitter at WadeOnTweets. I'm happy to take questions in any format, including right now. If you don't write all that down, my contact information's on the postcard too, so just contact me at that address. And again, I'll be happy to take questions about LinkedIn, or updating your profile, or starting a LinkedIn group, or anything else that comes up as you start to work in LinkedIn. Let me just say this real quick, and I'll take a couple of questions. What I've told you today is not very advanced. And I say that because I want it to be as easy as possible for you to jump in. For those of you who've got a profile, I want to make it easy for you to update it. For those of you who've never used LinkedIn before, you just go to linkedin.com and it'll guide you through setting up the profile. But I wanted you to have maximum effect the moment you're on there. You can go and download the app right now and set up your profile that way, and that way you always have it at your fingertips. But by updating the summary, by making sure that your accomplishments stand out in your jobs and experience section, by sharing things that are interesting, informative, or funny on a regular basis, and by getting in the right groups, that is the way to succeed at LinkedIn, to stand out among all of the millions of people out there and make sure that people come to you for help. People look at you in terms of their next star hire or their next company that they're going to buy products and services from. It's not difficult to make sure that you're out there, but all you have to do is just put in just a little bit more time and effort, and you will stand out from the crowd.